In 2000, Dr Sebastian Kraemer authored a report called The Fragile Male, which is available to view online. He says, quote, "The human male is, on most measures, more vulnerable than the female. Part of the explanation is the biological fragility of the male fetus, which is little understood and not widely known. A typical attitude to boys is that they are, or must be made, more resilient than girls. This adds social insult to biological injury." Right. Okay, I'll pick out some select lines from the report. Right. External maternal stress around the time of conception is associated with a reduction in the male to female sex ratio, suggesting that the male embryo is more vulnerable than the female. From this point on, it is downhill all the way. The male fetus is at greater risk of death or damage from almost all the obstetric catastrophes that can happen before birth. Kraemer then goes into some details, throws out some numbers. Then there's a section called Male Excess of Developmental and Behavioral Disorders. Then a section called Social and Cultural Attitudes, Danger and Despair. Then another bit called Males Are Better at Throwing and Map Reading, but more out of touch. Infant boys are more sensitive, according to Tronick and Weinberg anyway. Quote, "Infant boys are more emotionally reactive than girls. They display more positive as well as negative effects, focus more on the mother, and display more distress and demands for contact than do girls. Girls show more interest in objects, a greater constancy of interest, and better self-regulation of emotional states." Kraemer says, "The care of boys is generally more difficult and therefore more likely to go wrong, adding to the deficits already existing before birth. Since most of the growth of the human brain takes place after birth, some early environmental stressors could lead to disadvantage for boys being wired in." In his conclusions, Kraemer writes, "Biological and social constraints work together against the interests of the male. If parents were more aware of male sensitivity, they might change the way they treat their sons." Yeah. This Sebastian Kraemer, Dr. Kraemer, who wrote this, is qualified in medicine, trained in pediatrics and psychiatry. If you'd like to have your say on any of the points raised here, use the comments section, please, and perhaps you've read the report yourself and you take issue with something or some of the things Dr. Kraemer says. Maybe you yourself have a background in medicine or feel that you're knowledgeable in this area. Feel free to have your say anyway. So, more male fetuses die than female. Premature male babies die more often than females. Women, on average, seem to live longer than men. And this isn't just happening in one culture, it's happening worldwide, isn't it? The death rate seems to be generally higher for males throughout the various stages of life. Apparently, a man called E.V. Allen wrote an essay way back in the 30s in which he said something about being male. Something about being male influences unfavorably the resistance to diseases at all ages. He said, "The male is, by comparison with the female, a weakling at all periods of life, from conception to death. There seems to be no doubt that, speaking comparatively, the price of maleness is weakness." End quote. It's been said before that women are constitutionally and biologically superior to men. Does nature favour the female? I'd be careful about answering that question myself. One thing I will say in closing, though, is I don't think it's too healthy to have a rigid or fixed, inflexible idea about the gender you belong to and your own potentials, your own potentialities as relate to you being a male or a female. You know, you're a human being and you might have amazing qualities of which you're not yet aware, whether you're male or female. Anyway, catch you later, folks. All the best.